Over the shoulder, you're coming up looking in form, addressing the signals, intent on presenting good form. What are you waiting for? I've always loved to travel places where they have a tube system or a subway system. That popped in my mind, and then kind of the abstract idea of there being this, tunnel system or subway system through the sun just kind of stuck out.
I mean, you can really call your band anything, but the idea that there would be some kind of ambiguous mental picture attached to it. I bet everybody has some sort of different mental image when they hear Subways in the Sun, and that's cool.
You got to name your band something, so you pick something and stick with it.
Tonight on Band in Seattle, Subways on the Sun brings their nostalgic guitar pop to the Victory Studios stage. Welcome to Band in Seattle.
Certain fate in the color of lips and the darkness of eyes and the beauty you hold while you're still alive. I would turn back the centuries and the clocks back to be with you. I would hold off the fantasies.
Hi, I'm Greg, and I'm the drummer of, drummer from? Drummer for, way better. Hi, I'm Lars, and I play guitar in Subways on the Sun.
Hi, I'm John. I played keyboards in Subways on the Sun.
I'm Nick Barber, and I'm the bass player for Subways on the Sun.
Hey, I'm Eric, and I'm the singer and guitar player for Subways on the Sun. We'll turn back the centuries and the clocks back to be with you. I've always just loved playing music with friends, so the name probably originated 8 years ago or so, and just kind of had a new batch of songs and was leaving the band I was in before and just kind of had this idea for a new project and brought together in Lars, who's the other guitar player, and Nick, our bass player. We kind of formed the core of it at that point.
There have been some changeover in drummers throughout the years, partially to do with us. Well, at one point we all had little kids, and so the band, we've been together for almost 10 years at this point, but for a while it was just kind of like trying to get together whenever we could, whenever the kids were sleeping and staying up late and working on stuff. And so drummers have kind of come and gone throughout the years, but it's always been at least that core group of Eric and I for the most part, just because it's easy to coordinate two people to get together, and then Nick whenever we can get him in the mix too.
And at the time I was like, yeah, let's do it.
And that collaboration is priceless.
Tongues represents, I think, where we went musically as a band between our first album and second album. That was a song where I was driving over to Lars's house to work on music. We didn't know what we were going to work on. Got to his house and I was like, I think I have something. Let me play it real quick. And so we started with this, kind of the little lead line at the beginning. And then Lars had this just really dirty riff in his head.
And I learned months later that Eric had no idea what was going on with that part, and he was like, what is happening? What is this thing? It has wound up being one of our favorite songs on the record.
The Tonight Our Tongues Are Tied line popped in my head, sang it into a super cheap mic that night, and we actually kept that original vocal for the final album and just decided, you know what, we're not gonna put any more lyrics in here, any more melodies, we're just gonna let the music speak for itself.
I think Tongues might be Eric celebrating his love of Blur. Blur always has a couple songs on a record where it's a little bit repetitive. It's really selling one point and you kind of wonder how long it's gonna go. Tongues I don't think ever gets too repetitive, but it's really just, it's like setting a tone and then just going with that.
After the break, find out more about Subways on the Sun.
I'm gonna stay up here until you fall asleep because now it's just a battle of the wills. Well, what ended up happening is she did fall asleep, but so did I. Again, it's just the recurring theme here. I've known him for years. When we were kind of in our late teens, early 20s, we were both in different bands and we played a lot of shows together. About 3 years ago, he kind of joined the band.
Our bands used to play together maybe 15 years ago, and so they just, called and said, we're hanging out after our kids go to bed, and we're gonna play shows. It's gonna be a lot of fun, but it also is a realistic, schedule for people working with kids.
I got connected with this group through Nick, a friend of a friend, several years ago, and one thing led to another. He started calling me up for helping me out on these type of shows.
And he is just he's a pro. So you give him a list of songs and send them to him, and he just has them down like immediately. go to rehearsal and he just knows everything, and you go, wow, okay, well, I think John knows these songs better than we do.
I think some of the hardest times in the band have been like, well, what's next? What are we doing next? Or we don't have a show coming up for a few months. I think it just comes down to using your time effectively and making sure that it remains a priority in your life. So I remember when we had our first kid, it's like I went through this phase where I wound up having to say no to a lot of things that I really enjoy doing. I sing with the Seattle Choral Company from time to time, and that's something that I had to really cut back on. And I just thought to myself, you know, if I'm gonna do music, it's gotta be one thing. I want to do one thing and do it really well. My wife is a opera and musical theater singer, classically trained, and spends a lot of time performing herself. So a lot of times it's, you know, we're handing off parenting responsibilities and running to a show or a performance or something or a lesson, and it's great. It's really rewarding. Life is very full, but it's really rewarding.
You know, it makes it a challenge to keep working on new material. You know, this last album took a while to get out because you're just working on it when you can. We all had, you know, infants at the time. It's a challenge, for sure. But, you know, everybody's supportive of it. So everybody's families are, you know, they know it's important to all of us to be able to create.
Hope You Like Getting Old is one that has a very specific story behind it. My daughter was around 2 at the time, and I was trying to get her to take a nap, which is challenging. And so I was up in her room, and I stayed up there, and I was like, I'm gonna stay up here until you fall asleep, because now it's just a battle of the wills. Well, what ended up happening is she did fall asleep, but so did I. I'm on her floor, and I woke up, and my back hurt, and you know, I'm like late 30s at that point. I'm like, this sucks. You know, my body hurts. She's asleep, great. So I guess we met the goal, but at what cost? And this waking up on the floor line popped into my head, and sort of this, well, hope you like getting old.
When we return, uncover more about Subways on the Sun.
It's unique music compared to what you hear on the radio, so I'd like to see as much as possible of that kind of thing getting out there.
Sing a lullaby. We pass the cars in 4 lanes, turn into gold and silver light, and all the trouble that can surround. However, we will make a fortune, and we will never make a sound or make a final return. And I will dream to this again, because you were my best friend.
We Fell Down is probably all of our favorites to play live. It's got a lot of energy to it. It's from our first record. I think we rarely go a show without playing it.
And that's just really a song about relationships and making mistakes and just kind of moving on from our mistakes.
Usually a lot of people's favorite that we play is usually why we play it toward the end. Just has just a building kind of a crescendo to it. And there's not a lot of breaks in that song either. It just kind of just keeps steadily climbing.
I don't think you can be in a band and not want some kind of, discussion back and forth between you and an audience. Whether it's people listening out there through a streaming service or whether it's at a show. And I think when you're performing, it'd be nice if the shows were as big as possible, but it's very hard to do that if you're not touring all the time. I think I'd be lying if I said Subways on the Sun doesn't need to play shows in front of a lot of people, because that's just so much fun. But that's not the reason this band is together. This band is together because playing music together is awesome.
It's unique music compared to what you hear on the radio, so I like to see as much as possible of that kind of thing getting out there.
Shows are fun, love playing shows, but really it's the creating something new that, that I can feel and just hope that translates to other people having the same point of view.
Again, on repeat.
On Repeat for me it's a super personal song just because my daughter helped write it. So the same daughter who at age 2 on Hope You Like Getting Old, she sort of inspired that song. She actually helped write On Repeat. I was at my parents' house dropping her off for childcare one morning when she was super young, and I was plunking along on their upright grand piano that I learned to play on when I was a kid. And I was just playing some chords and she started singing along with it, and it was this really cool melody, singing nonsense words. And I was like, wait a second. So I pulled out my phone, we recorded it, which I still have that recording and listen to sometimes. The very last thing that was recorded on the album was her singing. So she actually sings on the album at the very end, and we kind of, she sings the same nonsense words that she sang on that original iPhone recording. Ready? Someday when she's a little bit older, maybe she'll get to pop up and play it with us, but she's, only 7, so late nights at bars aren't really happening for her yet.
At least for me as a musician, I'm always asking myself, what is it about music that I like and what is it about music that other people like? But I'm always asking, like, what makes this hit or this band so popular? What is it about what we're doing already that's resonating with people? And when we sit down to write a song, is there some space we can explore where it's writing the songs for ourselves and also thinking, like, you know, now that we've got a bit of a fan base, what would they want to hear?
For more information about our bands, go to bandinseattle.com, where you can watch Subways on the Sun's full concert.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.